Welcome back to our Next.js coding blog. In this video, we'll focus on the custom 404 page not found page, and we'll also implement the footer. And we can see if we just click on the dark mode, light mode, that it converts nicely. So we also have a couple of links here. So it links back to the home page here. And we can see that the home page, unlike the 404 page, it's much longer, and then the footer's sitting there at the bottom there. If I go back to the not found page, we can see that the footer's at the bottom, so there's just a little bit of styling that needs to get set up for that to occur. Of course, we can navigate to the blog section, and the same sort of things occurring there. So we can filter here and do all that filtering that we've set up in the previous video. And of course, we can go to this learn section. We set up that in the header to be able to route there in the previous video. And we can just go ahead and we can click on something. So let's click on the node tag. And we're in development mode, so it just takes a second to load, but it does actually reroute us to the nodes/introduction section here. And we can see everything's sort of lined up nicely there. So let's go ahead and build this out. The first thing I'm going to do is open up the project. So this is the code blog. And I'm just going to close up a few tabs, and I'm just going to collapse all of the folders here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to the public folder, into the images, into the logo there. I'm just going to reveal this in File Explorer. So in this logo section, I've just copied the footer logo that's going to repeat. I just made some adjustments in Photoshop to change the colors of it. So that's the footer that you see here. It's just going to be two of these squares lined vertically, and then it's going to repeat with that spacing to the left of it all the way across. So we've got that right resource there. So I'm just going to close that up, and I'm just going to go into Git Bash, and I'm just going to exit out of my server for the practice project. And then I'm just going to CD back into my Next.js folder. And I'm just going to CD into the code blog project. And then I'm going to run npm run dev to start the development server. So we'll just give that a second to load up. So now we can see that we got the current project running, and we can see the /foo route is giving us the default 404 page. So to create a custom 404 page, what we'll do is we go to the pages section, and we just create a new file here, and we call it 404.tsx, and Next.js will automatically detect the 404, and it will render it for whenever it cannot find a route. So I'm just going to use the _rafc code snippet to get the arrow functional component boilerplate up. And this is just going to be a functional component. So let me just demonstrate. I'll just put some text in here, just saying hi. And if I reload this page here, we can see that we're not getting anything. It's at the hi is actually above the navigation bar here. So if I just quickly do a display none in the dev tools here, we can see that up the top left there. So we want to create the 404 page as we've seen in the demonstration at the beginning of the video. So I'm just going to copy some imports over, and if you don't want to type these out, you can copy these from the GitHub along with everything else in the video, like the footer image or anything like that. But we've seen most of these, so this is just going to be a React functional component, so we can give it the type functional component, FC. We're going to have some links from the 404 page back to the blog and the home page, and also the learn section. Now, we're going to use Material UI. We're going to use the typography for some of the text. We're going to use the stack in conjunction with the chip to render the learn tags. And then we're also going to have a button to go to the home page and also the blog page. We've also got these two icons, home and menu, to just give it a little bit of styling there. And to be able to use our custom theme, we're going to use this use theme from Material UI. In addition to that, we're also getting the topic logo and all topic logos. So we've set this up in a previous video, but just to refresh our memories here, all topic logos is it's going to have the topics that we've talked about, and it's also going to have the image corresponding to that. So we don't necessarily need the image, we're just going to display it in tags, but we will need the topic here. So we're just going to need that and the corresponding interface to that models that data structure. So let's just get our constant variable for our theme here. So we'll get the custom theme by using the use theme. So we've seen all this stuff before. Now in this return here, I'm going to do a little bit of styling as well, in addition to the template. So I'm just going to wrap it in this fragment here so that we can apply the styling as well. So now the first thing we want to do is we sort of want to lay out the page a little bit. So we're going to have this div component here, and then we'll also have a style tag here. We'll come back to this. We'll get rid of this div here. This high text. So the first thing we want to do is we just want to use the typography component, and we just want to give this a variant. Let's just say it's a H2 here, and we want to have the text 404 page not found. But as you saw before, there was this header here. So what I'll need to do here is I'll need to just apply some styling to the container div. And I'm just going to display everything as flex, which will allow me to use the flex direction because I want to have a column here rather than the default as a row. And then everything will be lined up vertically, so the text will be vertically and all that sort of stuff. So then we just add a justify content here to center everything horizontally. Actually, this centers everything vertically because the flex directions column. And then to center everything horizontally, we'll just have the justify content. Align items. So normally the align item centers everything vertically, but because we're doing a column, the base direction has shifted axes. So now it's the inverse of that. And then we also have the padding top. Now I'm just going to add 200 pixels here. And I'm adding 200 pixels just so, there's a nice space between the heading and the actual content itself. And we'll do this on a couple of pages. And then, of course, I'm just going to make the height 100% here. And this will be related to the footer. So we can say, let's just save that, see where we get to. Okay, cool. So right now, and if I just refresh this, we get this 404 page not found, and we see that it's, down a bit. So we don't want the text right at the top because there's not going to be that much content. There's going to be a little bit of content, so that's why I added the 200 pixels of padding on the top there. Now let's just make this our primary color here. And if we go into this 404 part here. Let's put this in its own span. So we'll create a span here. And I'll just cut this 404 here. And I'll paste it inside of the span. And then I'll just add a space here. And then I'll just add a little bit of styling here. And I'm just going to choose the color, which is, we can use the custom theme. And there's the palette in the custom theme. And we can set the primary color and use the main variant of the primary. And if we take a look at this, now we see that we got this 404 here. We're still getting this pink highlighting because we set that up in a previous video. And of course, things look nicely if we invert the colors. So let's continue building this out. Now, below this typography component, I just want to have a span here. And I'm going to say, just give some prompting text. So, were you looking for the following pages? And then I'm going to have the route to the home page and the blog. So let's just give this a little bit of styling. So there's some space between the page not found text and this text here. So if I just give it a margin top of 48 pixels, and also just give it a margin bottom of 24 pixels. And then I'll have a div which will have those two buttons. So I'm just going to copy this style here for this div here. So I'm not going to have a margin top on this because I got a margin bottom here. But what I'll do is I'll give this a margin bottom of 48 pixels, just trying to keep things, you know, proportionally like spaced out. So 48 and 24 multiples. Of course, this is a bit of an eyeballing exercise anyway, but nevertheless. So I want to, because everything's displaying as a column, the buttons, if I put two buttons in this div, they'll line up in a column. So I want to display this as flex, which will make it a row. So, and then I can put some spacing between them, and I'm going to use a gap because everything is nice and responsive with that, opposed to having margins there. So, all right. Now I want to have our links. So I'm just going to have a link here. And this first one is going to be to the home page, so an absolute path of /. And then, of course, we can just have our pass href as always here. And inside this link, we're going to have a button. And this is going to be, have a, we'll make it large, for one thing. But we'll make it have the particular variant of outlined. And we'll also give it an icon at the start, and this allows things to line up a little nicer. And the icon that we want is just going to be the home icon that we've imported. Of course, you could choose whatever icon you want here. And then inside the let's see. Yeah, inside the button, we'll just have home written here. So let's just save that, see where we're at. So now we got this text here. Were you looking for the following pages? Home. Now I want to have another one that routes us to the blog. And then we'll check those links work. So let's just duplicate this link down here. And we can see that rather than going to /, we want to go to /blog. And rather than this home icon, we want to use the other icon. So I've chosen this menu book icon here. And then rather than this text, I want to say blog here. So now if I click on home, it should reroute us to the home page, and it does. And if I click on blog, it reroutes us to this page. So I just want to get this lined up nicely because again, we haven't allowed for the navigation panel, and that's also true on the learn section, but we'll come to that in just a moment. So let's just fix that up. Okay, so let's just do a Control P and we'll just get that blog page up. And all we'll do is we'll just add a little bit of padding at the top there. So let's just make this a div here rather than a fragment. So then we're able to add the style property here. And we can just give it a padding top of 72 pixels. I'm also going to add a margin bottom, and I'm doing this preemptively because we're also going to work on the footer component. And if I just save that, we can see that that blog's there, but there'll be margin bottom. So when we add the footer won't be, you know, snug right against the bottom of our card here. There'll be a little bit of space between it. And then if I just go click on this learn section, and I'll get the file up. So I believe that's the it's the dynamic route with the slug here, I think. So right now we can see this code block, but there's actually a heading on here as well. So if I just go ahead and in this styling here, if I just add on a margin top of 120 pixels, that should do it. So now this first one was 64 pixels, I think. Oh, 72 pixels. Let's check. Yeah, 72 pixels, and this next one was 48. So if you add them together, that's 120 pixels. And then this should be lined up at the top there. So we'll come back to this Z indexing when we come back to the responsive design and stuff like that. But let's just go back to our foo page and continue to work on the 404 custom page. So let's just check that those links are working. Yep, so we go to the blog, go to the home. Okay, so let's continue building out. Let's close this slug page and also this blog page. And we got this link here. Now we're still got a flex column outside of this div here. So let's just have another span, and we can just copy this span here because we're going to have some more text. So we're just going to say, and rather than having a margin top, we'll just have a margin bottom of 24 pixels here. And we'll just have some prompting text saying, perhaps you want to learn about. And then I'm going to have the stack with the links with the chips. So we sort of kind of done this when we did the, actually this was on the blog page. So on the blog page, we had this sort of thing going where we had the stack and then all the chips. So let's just copy that and then obviously change it a little bit. So just below this span here, I want to have a stack which will have these chips as a row. And then I can get rid of lots of these things here. Get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of all of this code here. So we have a stack of in the direction of a row. There's a little bit of spacing there. Rather than tag filters though, we want to have, because that was the blog tags, these are the learn tags. I can just say, or topic logos. And then rather than having a tag here, we're going to have a topic. And the type is going to be topic logo. And then we just need to adjust a few things here. So rather than having a chip directly in there, we're going to have a link because we want to be able to click on that. So that's going to be nested within the, so let's just alt up that, which means the key will need to be on the link because that's the first element within the map higher order function. Now for the href, we're going to build this up. So we'll just use a JavaScript template literal here. We want to navigate to the learn section, but we'll have a template literal here. And we just want to go to whatever topic it is. So it could be TypeScript, but we also want to ensure that we're going to the lowercase because it's going to be passed in the URL as a routing part of the slug. And then we want to go to the introduction by default. So that's what we've said here. And then we just want to pass the href. Gets rid of the squiggly line there. So in the chip, I'm just going to have the label rather than tag. It's going to be the topic. And of course you could rename this or do some destructuring or something like that. I'm not too concerned about it. I'm going to get rid of the color. I've got the variant of outlined, but I will add a class name. And I'm just going to say that this is the chip-tag. Of course, you can have this called whatever you want. But when you hover over the chip, I want to have our nice theming colors there. So I'm just going to use the backticks here on the styling. And then I'm just going to write out that class, the chip tag. And then in the event that we hover over a chip tag, I want to have some color here. And we've got this template literal, so we can use this variable here based on the custom theme on the palette. We'll take the secondary color, which is that pinky sort of color, to contrast it with the green tealy color that we have elsewhere. And that's will be the color that we need. And then we'll also change the border. So it's 1 pixel solid. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy this again. So the border color on hover changes to the same color as the text. And then I'll just save that. And now we can see that we got this nice 404 page. And then perhaps you want to learn about one of these. So I've actually got or here as well. I think I need to get rid of that. Yeah, so let's get rid of that there. And now if we save that, we can see that we got this node and TypeScript, and we got this pink contrasting color on hover in contrast to these green primary color here. And also these colors here, if you click on one of these links here, we can see that we get rerouted to the introduction section for that link. And these colors are also consistent if we look on the blog page with the tags here. So just trying to keep the color theming consistent. So that's the custom 404 page. What we'll work on now is we'll work on the footer. And as I said earlier in the video, some pages don't take the full height. So by default, the footer will just go after this tag here, but we sort of want it to be forced down to the bottom of the page. And then other pages are longer than the screen height, so we want it to be sitting below. So it's just a little I won't say trick, but it's just a couple of CSS classes and things you need to apply to be able to make that work. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just make a component here. So in our components folder, let's just create a file called footer.component.tsx. And I'm just going to use the _RAFCE snippet. And then I'm just going to rename the dot to component here. Now, I'm just going to have a variable because I know what the height of my footer is going to be ahead of time. And I'm just going to have this all in uppercases just to signify that it's a constant variable. And I'm just going to make it 256 pixels because I made the footer in Photoshop, so I know the exact height of it, and it's part of the design I was going for, just a simplistic reoccurring image, 2 in height and then reoccurring across the x-axis. But if I just make this a more SEO friendly tag, I make this a footer, what I can do is I can apply some styling here. And the styling I'll have is I'll position this absolutely. And then I'm also going to put it at the bottom. So bottom 0. I'm going to give it the height of the footer height in pixels. So we just specified that. I'll give it a width of 100%. I'll give it a background. So this is, if we're using something from our images here, I've put this JP logos footer in here. And as you can see, it's 2 JP logos with the colors changed a little bit. And then there's this spacing around it. By default, the images just repeat to take up the width anyway. So I purposely done it so there's not space on the right of it, because then this left space will get combined to it and then it'll be spaced out evenly. But to do that, or to reference that through the CSS, we can just say, and that doesn't have to be template literal, we can just say we want to access the URL, and then in brackets, so NextJS will detect the public folder by default, and then we can just go into the images there, and then we can go into the logo, and then I've called this jp-logos-footer.png, and that should be the images. So let's just go ahead and just save that. And of course we need to, use the footer. So in the app.tsx file, let's just open that up. So we've got the theme provider, CSS baseline. What I'm going to do also is I'm going to wrap everything in a container div. And this will go below the component here. And then I'm also going to get the footer component. So they'll get imported for us. Let's just put it up a little bit next to the header. Put a space in here. So we got the header component, the stuff that's getting rendered through the children. So all the page that's not the header. And then also we got the footer below that. And I've put this, container div around it. And of course you do have a layout component here if you preferred. But this is here so we can just get our footer positioned nicely. So if we just say, by default, we'll position everything relative, because the footer is going to be absolutely positioned in this relatively positioned container div. But the trick here is to have a min height. And the min height is going to be the full vertical height of the screen. So we take the full vertical height of the screen, and that's going to have all of our content in it. It's position relative. And then based on the height of the footer, we position that at the bottom, and then we may or may not need to subtract some of that off to offset the extra height that would occur by having it as the full viewport height. So we've got the header component here. Now, just surrounding the this part here, I'm going to have a div here. I'm just having a div here just so I can add the footer height. So I'm going to just say, I'm just going to put this here. Of course, this could be refactored because this is used in 2 spots, but I don't think it's completely necessary. Of course, you could make it as clean as you want. But I know this is what I'm going to have as a final product here. So what I'm going to do is, the reason I've encased this component or the page, that's not the header or the footer, in this parent div, is so I can apply some style to it. And I just want to add some padding bottom here. And the padding bottom is going to be equal to the footer height in pixels. So we're taking the full height of the screen here. Everything's within the full height, header, contents, footer. And then there's some padding bottom, which is the footer height pixels, and they'll go about offsetting that. So let's just save that. So now we can see that we've got this footer here. Let's take a look at the home page. And we can see that we've got that there. Now this is super close to the end. So let's just go to our index file and add a little bit of spacing down the bottom there. So this is around here. There's a div here that has all of our posts. So let's just add a little bit of styling here. And we'll just get the margin bottom. We'll set that to 48 pixels. I think that should be all. Now we got a little bit of spacing there for the footer. So as you can see, the footer works on both this page, that's long, and also the not found page. Let's just check that it's working on, say, the blog page. Okay, so that's working good enough. And we'll just check that it's working on one of these pages as well. And we can see that that's there, like that. So let's just go back to our home page. And again, we'll fix that popover component for that second header that's overlapping with the z-index in the next video. But let's return to our 404 page. So what we need to do is we need to just put a little bit of text here. I just want it centered in the middle, just saying John Peping. So to do that, if we return to our 404 page, if we go to our footer, we can see that we have this absolutely positioned to the bottom, and how we've made it line up is by having this parent div that's relative and with the padding offset there. But we want to have some text in here. So if we did something like this, so let me just say that. We can see that this is in the top left here. So we want this to be, we'll have a div nested in here. And inside the div, I'm just going to have the text that I want here, John Peping. And then I also want to have the copyright logo. We make a website, I believe things are copyrighted by default, but this just explicitly tells people not to, steal your content. And then I'm going to have 2021 to whatever date it is. So I can just have new date or whatever year we're in. So we're currently in 2021, but we're very, very closely approaching 22 in 2 days actually. So the time that this is published, I expect this to say 2022. But you can just go ahead and use this get full year method on the date class. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of styling here to position it to where I want it to go. And I might just add a dot here. So I'm just going to position this relative because this is absolutely, the parent's positioned absolutely. So I want it relative to that. And then I'm just going to have some of the standard flex properties to center things. So display flex, justify, content, center, align, items, or align content, I believe, center. Here I'll just make the color white because it's always going to be white because I've created the footer as the pink color, and I'll just save me the effort of importing the custom theme. Of course, you could do that if you want. And then I'm just going to add a padding top. This is just a curated value in situ. So 116 pixels, that'll just center things there. So now you can see that we've got this John Pink text here. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to cover in this video. Let's just check things are working. Let's just click on the home page. Scroll down, we've got that nice text there. Go back, go to the blog page. We've got the footer there. And then we'll just click on one of these tags. Let's just click on the TypeScript tag. And we can see that we got this sort of thing going here as well. Yeah, so that's how you can make a custom 404 page and also how to make a footer. In the next video, I think I'll start to work on the home page a little bit. And I also want to come back to some of the files, all the pages, and do some refactoring and making everything responsive. Because right now I don't think things are behaving as I wish on mobile. So thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and I hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.